I'm Gerry Walker, and we're still here, bitch. My guest today is Dr. Paul Nash. Paul's a professor at the University of Southern California, Leonard Davis School of Gerontology. With a PhD in psychology, his research focuses on intersectional discrimination and stigma, as well as health inequity, predominantly for members of older, minority, and disproportionately affected communities living with HIV. Paul is also a commissioner and co-chair of the Los Angeles County Commission on HIV's Aging Caucus and is actively involved with many local advocacy and patient-centered organizations. He works collaboratively and utilizes multidisciplinary approaches to further translational and community engagement within the field of geroscience. Paul is committed to advancing the research agenda and also increasing accessibility to findings that can lead to evidence-based practice and policy formation. He continues to develop new academic and professional gerontological programs and translate research into accessible education. He is the co-author of the recently published gerontology textbook, Critical Questions for Aging Societies. Hi, Paul.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm well. Hey, wow. I feel like you have everybody calling you Paul, but after reading this bio, I feel like I should put the doctor back in front of it.
Please do.
This is incredible. I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for being on Still Here, bitch.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. The pleasure is all mine.
Excellent, excellent. So let's figure it all out. Paul, to give the SHB family a clearer idea of who you are, before we get into everything, how do you identify on the queer spectrum, or do you? And how do you identify age-wise?
Not a problem whatsoever. I define as a gay male. I have recently turned 40, so I'm in that 40 plus characteristic group. And more importantly, as I'm sure your guests have probably guessed by this point, I also define as British.
Before we get into everything, is there anything you'd like to tell the SHB fam about something you might be working on right now that you're really excited about?
I mean, there is a lot that I'm excited to be working on at the moment. I am really proud to say that we're listening. We're listening to people's stories. So I'm working with one of my colleagues over in Ireland, and we are getting everybody's stories together. I am speaking to people from different backgrounds, speaking to people from normal backgrounds, people who have done extraordinary things, and people who have lived a quote-unquote normal life, because everyone's got a story to tell.
Yes.
And it's really important when we understand aging to understand and listen to everyone's stories. So we're trying to compile those from around the world, and you never know, we might even have a rival podcast for you.
I love it. We need more of that. Let me tell you, as an aside, storytelling, I believe, is one of the most important tools we can use when it comes to mitigating isolation and loneliness in our older adult population. Specifically, I'm going to talk about LGBTQ plus older adults. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I love the work that you've already done, and this sounds incredible. So even though Still Here, Bitch is about folks over 50, my hope is always that younger folks also tune in to get tips on how to prepare for their futures. Therefore, each episode I ask my guests, knowing what you've learned, what advice on relationships, be that dating, family, work, people in general, any kind of systems, sexuality, would you give your 30-year-old self today to prepare for the future?
So I see we're starting off with easy questions then. I guess I would say one piece of advice that goes for all kinds of relationships is be kind and give time. Because especially when you consider romantic relationships, when you consider work relationships, not everything is going to go the way you want it initially. What are you going to do? Throw that relationship away and start again? That's why we have such a disposable nature of relationships, because we're always searching for, quote unquote, that next best thing. How about understanding and acknowledging that things are going to go wrong? Give that time and work through things. Talk, discuss things. Nobody is perfect, however much we might like to think we are. So giving each other that little bit of time and understanding and acknowledging that there are going to be challenges enables us to work through and actually forge stronger friendships, stronger relationships, whether that be work or whether that be personal.
Amen. Amen. No, seriously, I'm here nodding. Y'all can't see that. So regarding human sexuality, what does healthy sexuality, in your opinion, look like for someone on the queer spectrum who has now crossed over into their 50s or 60s?
So yeah, I guess, no, it's perfect. So I think for me, whether it's somebody who's in their 20s, somebody who's in their 30s or their 50s, it's giving people that space to explore in a safe way. So whether we are providing somebody with a safe space, a physical space, a mental space, we have to be aware what sexual health means. Yes. Sexual health is more than just the absence of disease. It's considering mental health. It's considering mental well-being. It's about enabling somebody to be who they are, free of stigma. So in a space that they feel comfortable being. We need to make sure that we're also questioning our own perceptions of aging, because most of the data doesn't exist over the age of 50 or 60. But we know that people over the age of 50 and 60 are having sex. And I'm hoping that when I get to that age, I'm going to be having it too. So what we should be doing is enabling people, whether they have physical or cognitive ability issues, we should be enabling them to have safe, informed sex. We should be enabling them to form and maintain progressive relationships that they want to, whatever that relationship looks like, because that doesn't have to be a monogamous, heteronormative relationship. Right. It could be a friendship. It could be a casual sexual relationship. It could be an open relationship. So we've got to enable people to explore in environments that they feel happy doing so.
I'm right on board with you there. There are many like myself who take an objurgatory stance when it comes to the myth of no sex after 50 and how it perpetuates stigma and misinformation among both older and younger LGBT individuals. You said that healthy sexuality can look many different ways depending on the person. What have you seen in your profession and in your personal life when it comes to older person, younger person dating and sex? Like many who take part in it seem to be disenfranchised or shamed in our community when our community actually exalts youth. So in many ways, in my perception, it's a catch-22. Do you have any response or encouragement for people who are looking at exploring sex with younger individuals?
So again, I'm going to pose this question to you. What would Cher do?
Oh my God. What has Cher done?
What has Cher not done?
Yes.
So I guess what we need to look at there is the key thing, no matter what age, it's consent. So yes, if you've got somebody who is older, who's attracted to somebody who's younger, not a problem. If that person who is younger is also attracted to that person that's older, and it's done from a position of equality, there's not that power dynamic or one person feels coerced, then absolutely we should be enabling people to explore their own sexualities, whether they be in their 20s or whether they be in their 80s.
Yes. Okay, I'm asking you to put on your doctor hat here, Dr. Paul Nash. Let's do some stats. What are the general rates currently of sexual activity among adults ages, let's say 65 and older? Go.
Well, obviously, as you know, as an academic, I can reel these stats. No. So I'll go back to even data that was collected in the 90s. We know that of the people that were sexually active, over 65% were within a particular sample. But of those people, 100% said that that was integral to the maintenance of their relationships. So I will throw this back and say we've known this since the 90s, but are we embracing it now? And I will tell you, as a gerontologist, very few gerontologists and geriatricians providing care specifically for older adults will even think about asking around sexual health. And as a commissioner working with people providing sexual health, We also know that many of them will not think about aging and geriatrics when they're providing sexual health care. So the short answer is we know that older people are having sex, we're just not talking about it. And that's really part of the problem. And let's be honest, this has been going on in our community for decades, where silence equals death. And if we're not talking about it, we're only further stigmatizing it.
So we're talking about sex for older adults on Still Here Bitch. That's why we exist. Let's just keep going. But before we do, I'd like for you to please give our listeners the definition of gerontology. He just cracked a smile, you guys. So what is gerontology? So everyone's on the same page here when you talk about that.
Absolutely. So we are holistic. We're not just a single science. And what do I mean by that? Well, we look at the biopsychosocial approaches to aging. So we look at the biology. So we might have individuals looking at genetics. We might have people doing geroscience like myself. We look at things like biomarkers. But we also look at the psychology to understand how individuals act and how we interact with each other. But then we also have to consider the sociological side of things. So what does the social framework look like? What's the legal framework look like? What are cultures in terms of supporting? And we have to work all of these together in a real big intersectional soup to understand that holistic nature of aging. And that's why gerontologists we're kind of a unicorn in the mist, really, because there aren't very many of us. But when we consider why we need gerontology, well, consider our society. Our society is aging. When we look at new aging populations, well, that's older people who are living with HIV. They now make up the majority of people living with HIV. When we consider products and services, well, actually, most of the disposable income is within older adult populations. And as we continue to age, every single sector needs to consider gerontology because we need to understand more than just stereotypes.
Yes. Among LGBTQ older adults in particular, can we talk stats regarding sexually transmitted infections and how we might mitigate transmission moving forward?
Okay, so I can see this in a couple of different ways. So I can see that you are a clubbing queen and you could have quite happily been going down to West Hollywood on a Friday and Saturday night. And as you'll have seen down Santa Monica Boulevard, there are many testing stations that people can go and they can go and get tested, whether it's for HIV or whether it's different STIs. What I would ask of you is Monday through Friday, 9 through 5, what's happening with those vans? Are they touring around residential care facilities? Are they going to retirement communities? Because these are the people that might not be able to go to testing facilities. These are the people who might consider that they don't need to use condoms anymore because they're not going to get pregnant. One of the big problems is health literacy. So health literacy is when we understand not just knowledge base, but we understand how health information can be used for ourselves. So what do I mean by that? Well, older people may very well understand that sexual health is important, but if we're not designing materials that promote safe sex for these communities, understanding that our bodies change, that the way in which we do things changes, the position that we might prefer changes. But let's make this a real open and honest conversation. So that health literacy needs to improve both in terms of doctors being able to talk to people the same age as their grandparents about having sex, but also older people saying, you know what, I'm going to talk to my doctor who might be in their 30s, that might be the same age as my grandchildren. And we need to have an open and honest conversation about sex. Because many of the symptoms that are associated with STIs can be misdiagnosed as facets around aging. Having an aching knee, having even memory issues might be a consequence of tertiary stage syphilis or even HIV. So we need to get away from the idea that older people don't have sex and are never going to have STIs, because when we start to look at the incidence rates, yes, the N, so the actual number of STIs, is relatively low within these communities. The actual percentage increase is rocketing in these communities because we are doing older adults a complete disservice by not addressing these facets.
You're killing me softly. I'm at the senior center now. And when I talk to our participants here, this is a direct quote. my doctor won't even look at me when I ask for PrEP.
I'll be honest, it really bugs me. So I put in a research grant back in the UK, and I thought it was not only novel, but groundbreaking and pretty darn fabulous, even if I say so myself. It was to work with memory clinics. So every person that came into a memory clinic, every single person would be offered an STI screen for both syphilis and HIV. And that way would be a case of saying, well, actually, rather than saying that somebody has dementia, they might actually just have tertiary stage syphilis, when we can give them some pills and they can be cured from that. Or at least the symptoms can be stopped from getting any worse, rather than treating somebody for dementia when it actually isn't dementia. The same with HIV. So I thought this was a really innovative practice. And the response from the funders was, this project hasn't been done before. There is no evidence that it is needed. I said, this is my point. There's no evidence it's needed because no one's done this. So yeah, I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. So
Good, because I feel like there's another level to this, which is once you are able to identify the true origin of some of these symptoms, you can use that as a direct line into conversation about sex. They may not have been offered this before.
We also have to consider how relationships change, because some people may stay married for 30, 40, 50 years, get divorced and start new relationships. You also might find that not everyone is monogamous, whether they are supposedly in a monogamous relationship or not. So we need to be having these frank conversations, because as we age, as we live longer, the types of relationships that we're having are changing. As the way in which we view relationships changes, that's going to continue to impact older adults. And the problem we have is that the stigma around that is associated, as you said before, with older adults, not with younger people. So we need to make sure we're having open and frank conversations, especially when we consider latent stage syphilis can be 30 years before we start to see any symptoms.
We'll be right back after this. Looking for something new and exciting to do? Somewhere to go where you can meet new people who are like you? And others who aren't. If you can swing it, how about taking a Virgin Voyage adults-only cruise? Virgin Voyages could very well be the best cruise line for adults. It starts when you wake up. Whether you choose to jumpstart the day with a wheatgrass shot from Gin and Tonic or a Filthy Mary from the Red Bar, no matter what, you can rest assured that you won't accidentally step on a child, because there are none on a Virgin Voyage adults-only cruise. And the best part? Dining is included in your voyage fare. The fun continues whenever you dock, with excursions tailored to sophisticated tastes and sightseeing and cuisine in every port. From artisan honey making to sampling craft brews, every Virgin destination from A to Z boasts activities best enjoyed by those 18 and up. So, why not book a getaway on a Virgin Voyages adults-only cruise? You'll be glad you did. Go to virginvoyages.com today. Oh, we have the best guest on Still Here, bitch, y'all. Paul, sexuality is often affected by the emotional and the physical. We know that many of our older adults in the community are suffering currently from isolation and loneliness. That will affect their ability to experience healthy sexuality. So now I'd like to ask you about some ways to address isolation and loneliness. I've seen a few of your posts, and there's one in particular that stood out to me. You were talking about chosen family, particularly around the holidays. I remember it was a Facebook post, and I was quite intrigued by it. I actually played it like 3 times in a row. And you did mention some of the things we talked about today about being kind and meeting people where they are. I'm going to challenge you on this just a bit, because I agree with you, and I want more from this, because I think our fans deserve that, and I know you can provide it. Many of our older adults have been traumatized, in so many ways, via, their families, healthcare system, as you mentioned, legal, like just getting it from all different directions. And it might be difficult for them to figure out just how to be kind to themselves, let alone being kind to others. Do you have any advice as to what might be the gateway drug into kindness?
So again, we're starting with those small questions. I guess I'm going to take it back a notch or two and say you highlighted how important loneliness is. Well, even the US Surgeon General highlights that loneliness is a huge challenge across the US, not just the US, but across the world. And it's not just older people. The first myth that I want to bust with you is that loneliness doesn't actually affect older people in as larger quantities or as often as it actually impacts younger people. So again, that's another stereotype we have, that all older people are going to sit there staring out the window, looking longingly and wistfully and thinking of their youth, when actually it's younger people who have that social comparison theory, as you mentioned, looking on Facebook, Instagram, etc., looking at everybody else living their best lives, and they have that FOMO. So we know that younger people are actually more at risk. But even with older people, it is a very real problem, as you highlighted. I just want to say it was also a problem across the life force.
Thank you. Yeah.
What are we doing about it? Well, I'm going to pose another question to you, a little rhetorical one. Don't worry, don't panic. Do we do anything? Do we offer any interventions if somebody is overweight? Do we offer any interventions if somebody wants to quit smoking? The answer to both of those is yes. But loneliness is more challenging or more risky for your health than smoking 16 cigarettes a day, every day, or even more so than being overweight. Yet it's the one thing we could actually do something about. So I guess that comes around to your full circle question of, well, what can we do about it? As you said, we kind of need to be kind to each other, because the last thing we should be doing for loneliness is blaming somebody, saying, oh, well, they're only lonely because they're not sociable, or they don't go out when I've invited them out. Well, maybe they don't feel up for it. Maybe it's not the right environment for them. And we find that loneliness is actually more problematic for men. Men, especially after retirement, they lose a large portion of their social network. So most men have a social network that's derived around from work. So when they retire, that goes. So why are we not putting the onus on work to say, you know what, let's have an alumni association for work. Let's have an emeriti system where people can come back and volunteer or help build those skills so that companies don't lose those skills. Or there's a great organization that started in Australia called Men in Sheds, where men would come together and actually start sharing skills. So yes, they might do it over a beer, they might do it over a cup of tea, whatever. But whereas men might not want to talk about their feelings initially, they might want to build a bird box or do something other manly that I can't think of because I'm not quite that manly. But it might be something to enable them to actually open up and meet another group of friends. So it's about building activities around things that you like, around commonalities. So how can we start making this available for older people? Well, older people have activities too that, believe it or not, and I know this is going to be the real shocker, not every older adult wants to play bingo. So no? I know, right? Unless it's drag bingo, then I forgo anybody would want to do that.
Okay.
But the whole point is we should be making activities that older adults want to do. And how would we do that? Well, we include older adults in the planning of those activities. Yes. And rather than saying, oh, well, we can't do this, let's figure a way out of doing it. Again, I use my mum as an example. Don't tell her I said this. But she turned 70 last December.
Mum is in the next room, y'all. Just so you know. Go on.
And we're planning ways in which we can get her skydiving in the next week or so. Oh. She has just come back from running in New Orleans in what felt like 1,000 degrees Celsius, doing the red dress run for charity. She has done half marathons, she walks, she does everything. Oh, and it's not about what you can't do. It's about working out ways of doing things that you want to do. So let's build community around what we want to do rather than saying, oh, well, you can't do this. That's not age appropriate. So as I said, it's not about making people feel guilty for not wanting to do certain things. But as I said, it's about meeting them where they are. And that's really important when we consider the LGBT population as well. As you said, it could be historically that families have disengaged from people who identify as gay. It could be that due to their own self-stigma, because let's face it, it's been illegal to be gay in the US for the majority of their lifespan. Yes. So let's start to consider what that trauma can do to individuals and create these spaces that enable people to actually open up and be honest and be free to do what they want to do rather than trying to cajole somebody into a social environment that they don't want to be in. It might be a book group for somebody. It might be a one-on-one coffee group for individuals, because you could be in a room with 100 people and still be bitterly lonely. Mm-hmm. But you could be on your own with a good book and not be lonely. So it's about understanding those differences for individuals and respecting them rather than saying it's a one-size-fits-all.
Well said. So well said. Applause, applause. My. How things have changed. Can you keep up? Because seriously, I'm having a hard time. But I'm here for it. Now that the political landscape has turned yet again, it's more important than ever to remain on top of the issues. Don't stress yourself out, though. Just understand who's about what and which administration might better suit your future self. Go to vote.gov to find out what's going on. You'll learn local, state, and national information that gives you insight into not just who you should vote for, but why you should vote, period. Again, go to vote.gov. That's vote.gov. We're not out of the woods, folks, because trust, people who don't want you around are planting trees. Go to vote.gov today. How long have you been involved with AIDS Life Cycle? And tell us about that experience.
So I joined AIDS Life Cycle in 2019, a little way ago. And we started training and we were throwing our miles onto the road. And then the pandemic hit. So the first actual ride I did was actually after the pandemic, but we rode all the way through. And I'll be honest with you, as somebody who lives in Los Angeles with no family, because they're all in the UK, AIDS Life Cycle became my family of choice. They're the ones that got me through the pandemic. I had friends who are younger than me, friends who are the same age as me, and friends who are considerably older than me. And we were training throughout that pandemic. So it was an intergenerational lifeline for me. And that really, to me, sums up what AIDS Life Cycle is about. It's 545 miles. 545 miles. We can keep saying that again, but 545 miles. And it takes no prisoners. Whether you are young, whether you are old, you have to put that effort in. And I see people in their 70s and 80s outperforming and outpacing many people in their 20s and 30s. And it really is, as they call it, a love bubble. It's a way of bringing the community together, but not just bringing the community together in an insular way. It's about taking that love bubble all the way down the coastline of California and infusing each of those communities with that as well. About starting conversations around HIV and AIDS, about starting conversations about sexuality, and starting conversations about what it means to be part of an LGBT aging population and what it means to live in that population who are aging with HIV. So it's such an important piece of the social fabric of the LGBT community. And it's more than just a fundraiser. It can often be a lifeline for those people who live in those communities who don't have anybody to engage in that style of conversation with. So yeah, I have been doing it for a few years now. I co-captain the USC Keck Stands as a play with Keck School of Medicine. And we are also the lead medical sponsor for the ride. And I'll be honest with you, it has been one of the most life-affirming experiences I've ever had.
Everybody, we got a professional here saying, now we're talking about older LGBTQ, mitigating isolation, mitigating loneliness, finding your tribe. He found his with ALC. So maybe I should think about being a roadie next year. Is that what they even call them?
I mean, you could easily be a roadie, but you know what? I can see you head to foot in spandex riding that saddle all the way down the coast.
You can't. Now you're into the lying part of it. No. Welcome to Grindr. Grindr has grown into the largest social networking app for gay, bi, trans, and queer people. They have millions of daily users who use their location-based technology in almost every country in every corner of the planet, and they're still evolving. Today, Grindr proudly represents a modern LGBTQ lifestyle that's expanding into new platforms. From social issues to original content, they're continuing to blaze innovative paths with a meaningful impact for our community. At Grindr, they've created a safe space where you can discover, navigate, and get 0 feet away from the queer world around you. Grindr, keep connecting. I want to ask something about the Men in Sheds group. Is that an intergenerational group or is it just older individuals?
So it was designed as a social group essentially for older males. Mm-hmm. And it was designed, as I said, as a way of overcoming the loneliness and overcoming the deterioration in social network experienced specifically for men. It started off in Australia, came across Europe. It hasn't really taken off so much in the US, but maybe 1 or 2 of your listeners could do that.
Maybe you're listening. And the reason I ask that question, Paul, is because when I speak to many of our clients here about like, what do you want? Like, what sounds good to you? What did we used to have that used to bring you here more often to the center? What rings your bells? You know, and I get all kinds of responses, and I love it. Often what comes up is, I don't always want to be around people my age. I want to be around younger people. I want to interact with them. I want to break bread with them. The way I'm understanding this, it's not some sort of lust or I wish I were young again. No, it's not that at all. It's what it feels like to me and what it's being explained to me is that it's another realm of humanity that they are literally trying to reach into, and just they want a hand to reach out to them to bring them into that.
So intergenerational contact is so important. So when we consider it in terms of spaces, let's pick apart gay society.
Okay.
What queer spaces do you have? We have essentially bars, clubs, and youth-orientated spaces. If you've got mobility issues, or you've got hearing issues, or you've got sight issues, those bars are not great for you. Mm-hmm. You can't engage with people in those spaces. Also, those spaces can be incredibly judgmental. So although you may want to go to try and experience some intergenerational contact, that isn't really facilitating that. And then you often feel judged anyway. So we find that bars and spaces that are, by and large, what are seen as the queer community mixing spaces are not really designed for supporting intergenerational contact, and they're not really designed for longevity. They're not designed for older people to use. Mm-hmm. But interestingly enough, we find that younger people also want those intergenerational mixing spaces.
Right.
And the reason, well, in my work, but also in my own perspective, I think one of the really important reasons why we want that is because if we don't, we lose an awful lot of ourselves through losing our own history. So we have intergenerational storytelling, which is a hugely important way of our community surviving. We tell the stories of what happened during the 60s, during the 70s, during the 80s, what happened from Stonewall onwards, what happened even here at the Black Cat Cafe in Los Angeles, what's happened during the AIDS epidemic, what's happened during COVID, what's happened during legalization of marriage, what's happened during the rollback of rights to the trans communities, etc., etc. Because if we don't tell the people in their 20s this, then we're only living in danger of that happening again. So we find that actually many younger people want to know these stories, but they don't have these spaces to engage with the older people. Many older people want to talk about their lives, but they also don't feel comfortable doing so to just healthcare workers or carers. They want somebody who identifies similarly to them, wants somebody who actually actively wants to listen to them. So I think, again, it's another thing that we can challenge both the LA LGBT Centre to and also your listeners is saying, let's create those spaces. Let's make the space that we want to see.
When we're talking about younger people who want to share their stories as well, who may want to talk about not ever experiencing school without shooter drills, or, about not ever knowing what it was like not to have a phone as your main source of social engagement. Anything, so absolutely. Oh, I love this. I hope my boss is listening. Hi, it's Gerry. Got an idea for the show? Tell us. Email us at hello@shbpodcast.com. That's hello, HELLO, at shbpodcast.com. hello@shbpodcast.com. Tell us what you need. Paul, I had anticipated us talking a bit about sexual dysfunction in older age, but we're talking about so many other cool things. I feel like that could be a different show, but do you have anything you might want to give as a teaser?
Well, you know me, I like to cheese. But with regards to sexual dysfunction, we might be talking, for example, of people that might have erectile dysfunction. And we know now there are many medications that can enable people to have a fulfilling sex life for much longer than previously possible. And that's one real great advancement within medication. But what we're not doing is keeping up the social side of that. So yes, we have the medications to enable people to get it up, but we're not enabling them to stay safe, or at least have the information or even having access to what they need to keep them safe. I think one of the key things here is when we have a leaflet with two 20-something-year-old twinks with chiseled six-packs on the front, are you going to pick that up and read that leaflet? Is that going to have anything that resembles you? Is that going to have anything that you think is important for you? The likelihood is pretty much no. So why do we not design those leaflets that actually reflect the communities we're trying to work with?
I'm going to say yes and to that, because I truly believe that the media, all of the advertising, as we move forward into the future of gerontology, I believe that all of those materials need to include both older and younger people together, because in my opinion, we're all aging. Whether you're in your 20s, 30s, teens, we're all aging. And I feel like part of the way to rid ourselves of the stigma as a community, as a society, is for us to acknowledge that. And what better way to do that than in images? And like you were just talking about, I've been a proponent of this for years now, but it's wonderful that my ideas are backed up by someone who calls himself doctor. So there you go.
So don't worry, I'm not going to burst into song. But as you say, the children are our future. So when we consider prejudice, when we consider age stereotyping, what's the one stereotype that makes literally no sense? So I am never going to know what it is like to be prejudiced against for being a woman. I am never going to know what it is like to be prejudiced against for being black. But every one of us is going to age, and we're going to experience ageism. Whether we are black, whether we are white, whether we are male, whether we are female, whether we are anything else in terms of our social intersections, we are going to experience aging. So when we start to stigmatize what it is to be older, when we start to ignore individuals because of their age, we're actually only setting up society to prejudice against our own selves.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. And yes. Everybody, aging is the future. You heard it here first. Dr. Paul Nash. Paul! Everybody, I walked up to him at an event here at the center, told him about this idea I had for a podcast that was geared toward older LGBTQ adults and their unique relationships. And he said yes on the spot. I am very grateful that he did. I believe you probably are too, because this has been incredible. incredible. I love learning, and this is like being back in school. I love it. Paul, thank you. Thanks for being on Still Here, bitch.
I didn't just say yes. I said yes, bitch.
You did. He did. Oh, yes. All right. Well, I think that sums it up, everybody. Thank you, SHB fam, for listening. Thank you for growing with us. This was our 4th episode. We've got all of our episodes for the rest of all through the fall. I'm so grateful for everyone in this room and everyone who's listening and everyone who's sharing and liking and downloading and subscribing. So thank you. Please keep doing it because there's a need here and we're trying to do our little part to fill it. So until next time, go out and get you some joy. Thanks for tuning in to Still Here, Bitch. Remember to follow us on the socials. Please like and subscribe or get somebody to show you how. And we'll see you next time on Still Here, Bitch.